Hello and welcome to episode number 96. Today is February the 11th, 2021. I have with me my co-panelist Sree Chityalaji. Sridharji, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus channel. It's a great day out here.
Namaskaram and good morning to everybody. It's always a great day here, but a little bit cloudy and very chilly. It's been very chilly for most of this week, but that's New York.
We are going to quickly cover a lot of ground today. To start off, the vaccine diplomacy of India is winning a lot of hearts. The latest one being after having criticized Modi and India on the farmers' agitation, Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, reached out to Prime Minister Modi requesting for some vaccines, and I believe India has accepted. India has not only done that, but it has also reached out to many smaller countries, even in the Indo-Pacific region, to provide them with vaccines. This vaccine diplomacy has been a huge hit. We wanted to tip our hat to the Modi government for that, and for a detailed analysis of this, do watch a video that we put out a few hours ago with Professor M.D. Nalapat. Moving on, there has been a news release on China Times as well as a statement on the floor of Lok Sabha by the Defense Minister Rajnath Singh about the troop withdrawal position. We shall wait and see what happens. Sir, do you want to weigh in something on the troop withdrawals?
Well, I think that the historical precedent is that China never keeps its word. I know India is very, very hawkish on this, especially under the present security kind of leadership which overseeing the matters in India. They don't withdraw, and they watch and they watch and they watch to make sure any strategic positions that India holds is not given away, recognizing that this is only for media consumption. There is a token or a modicum of move by China, and eventually it's only results in further consolidation by Chinese. They use this window to consolidate while under the pretension of making these moves. So my view is that as long as the present security architecture is led by the people like Ajit and Bipin Rawat and Mr. Navrane and so on, we may see that they will not give away the strategic positions that they occupy on top of the hills, especially around the Kailash, right? So they will not commit the same blunders that has occurred before. So that's my observation.
Thanks for that update, sir. And let's now quickly go over to look at what has been happening in the United States impeachment process. A lot of stuff, a lot of video being shared, a lot of video that has not been in the public domain before. What are your initial thoughts? Is this just grandstanding in front of the American public?
Well, I think that's what it is, because the reason is going into the impeachment, right from pre-yesterday, which is not yesterday, day before yesterday, Tuesday, when Rand Paul introduced the preliminary tests, they found 45 Republicans were not in favor of the impeachment process or impeachment. 50 Democrats plus 5 Republicans voted in favor. They don't have the 67 votes. But they used this simple majority as a tool to kind of get in and get onto the political grandstanding. So then what happened yesterday again in the Senate, there was a procedural vote on Tuesday when the first 4-hour session kicked off. 44 to 56 in favor of going for the impeachment. Mr. Cassidy was the only one, and he weighed in on the basis of the presentation of the evidences rather than presentation of the data rather than the evidence. He said, this is not my final vote. I may change my vote when I kind of get back. So even in the second instance, there's no vote. So this process has started. So we are into this, 6 hours kind of a drama. There's a lot of criticism around the presentation by the Trump lawyers as against the impeachment managers. Whether some of the content is curated on both sides to present their point of view, we don't know, because this is not cast in stone. It is only confined to the halls of the House and the Senate, especially this in the Senate within the impeachment parameters. So Democrats have, Republicans have sat back and, said, okay, conduct the show and, we'll kind of listen. We know what we're going to do. Even for Cassidy, there was a lot of criticism from the Louisiana Republican Committee, recognizing that this is, he should not have, voted for impeachment, et cetera, et cetera. So this is very much a political. Constitutional, I think we have given a very detailed kind of opinion, which is namely to say that there is no constitutional provision to impeach a president who no longer is the president who has left office. So I think this drama will continue. Hopefully, will end very soon, and then we can get on with the main business, which is around the geopolitical issues and which is also around the stimulus, which has not yet been passed, plus the whole raft of other things that they want to do, the energy policy, etc., etc.
Well, excuse me. Let's take a look at United States news now. And a lot of thing has been happening around United States as people are beginning to start challenging things like the Obamacare or some of Biden's initiatives such as shelving the Keystone pipeline and so on. What do you have for us, sir? And where do you think this is headed? Because some of the states are now clearly taking hardline positions, just like New York did under President Trump when the COVID vaccine was really COVID was really raging.
Well, I think there are four main themes that are playing out in the U.S. domestic scenario, right? First and foremost, that is playing out is the consequences and the impact of the energy policy, especially, no further leases plus the Keystone pipe halt. That's playing out big. And yesterday, George Bush, not George Bush, the former president, but the Texas land commissioner, made a profound statement, which is effectively to say they are going to look at all the possible legal remedies. In many ways, Texas is leading some of these anti-policies, conservative policies of Biden, be it on immigration, be it on the energy policy, be it on the rejoining of some of these global bodies, the prioritization of the allocation of the stimulus. So clearly, Texas, the Attorney General, Mr. Paxton, is leading the efforts. Now you are beginning to see more and more of other divisions stepping in. And as you know, Texas is the energy center from a trading point of view for United States. So I think it's a bad decision, considering that there's going to be a significant impact on the jobs. Now, you can see to the extent that this is so big that a big problem around the immigration, which first surfaced, has taken a little bit of a backseat, especially, the states of Arizona and Texas is concerned, and also the wall, which is also likely to be stopped, right? So this is what is playing out. And you touched on the Obamacare. I think the Obamacare was parts of the Obamacare was set aside. And that's how the prescription drugs program came in under President Trump. Now, Biden is going back and saying to the Supreme Court, set aside the judgment that you made. We want to not only have the Obamacare, but we also want to expand the program. So that is going back to the Supreme Court. What's going to happen? We don't know. The third issue that is also making headway is the $10, $15 minimum wage. That's again going to be consequential in terms of the employment scenario and make things uncompetitive or non-competitive. Now, the weighing in on that is Sanders seems to concede the point that it would be inappropriate to increase the wages in the middle of a pandemic when we are trying to do re-employment. So these are the kind of the key major headlines that is making way within the context of the domestic. On the international side, in terms of the domestic looking outward, the WHO and UN is now a little bit backseat, but the WHO. So Mr. Josh Healey and Scott have introduced a bill not to put taxpayers' money into WHO, because Biden, one of the first policies was we are going to join WHO and WHO will be a body by which we'll collaborate with the rest of the world. China has hurt itself with some of the work that it has done. So it begs and questions the relevance of the WHO and to what extent you're going to fund this institution, which is coming out with statements and outcomes that seems to be inconsistent with the world opinion. So that's another piece of stuff that is coming up coming up on the floor on the Senate side.
Let's take a quick look at global news. President Biden had a telephonic conversation with President Xi Jinping of China. Maybe you can cover the salient points of that conversation that took place, sir.
President, at last, Xi Jinping and Biden spoke in the yesterday night, and the key features that propped up, apparently, according to the White House release, the paper that has come out, Biden made a very strong plea on the known points. The known points are the human rights violations in Uyghur, the human rights violations and suppression of democracy in Hong Kong, the aggressive postures that China has taken in South China Sea in the intervening time between Trump's departure and Biden's assumption. And the other area they have also talked about is some of the trade policies, which is draconian trade policies of China. So these were the four main themes that featured in the discussion: South China Sea, the human rights, the trade policies, and the virus, the Wuhan virus or the Chinese virus. He has basically said you need to be more transparent in giving the data, and he's not satisfied with the WHO report, and he's asked for more detailed explanation.
Now, Myanmar, the United States government has imposed sanctions on the Myanmar junta, which has taken over the government. What are the status on that, and what was the reason for putting the sanctions in place now?
Well, one of the core policies of the Democratic Party is democracy and human rights, right? So therefore, Myanmar has violated the norms of democracy, usurped power. Myanmar in United States, they have blocked or frozen those assets from an access point of view. They have put other types of controls, clearly delivering the message that they must return back to democracy and hand over the power to a elected government rather than the military holding the power.
Now let's take a look at the other things that are happening in and around in the markets. Colin Powell has said that the interest rates in the United States are going to stay low for a prolonged amount of time because of the challenges faced by the COVID. How long do you think the United States will keep the interest rates at near zero, sir?
Yeah, the Fed Governor Jerome Powell has indicated in his statement, which was to the markets yesterday, that the unemployment has come to about 6.3%, which is quite remarkable. The latest numbers show there's some positive momentum around the unemployment. But equally, there are two important elements. One is that the stimulus 1A, 1B, has made its impact. Stimulus 2, which is the R&R, the 910 billion, is still flowing through the system. Stimulus 3 has not yet been kind of formally launched. The unemployed people who deserve to get this unemployment allowance, that's likely to expire. And so therefore they are impacted. That's number one. The second is the lower income strata still are in the process of getting back into employment. So he is saying that unless and until this is people who are less than 60,000, $50,000, annual kind of income, they have to come kind of mainstream. It's not just about 6.3%. So until such time that picks up momentum, we will keep the interest rates low. That's a very profound statement from Jerome Powell. And there are no inflationary kind of tailwinds that he foresees. So they're going to continue to maintain this 0% policy. Remember, 2021 is likely to be 0%. The 0% was supposed to stretch almost into the second half of 2022. But these things can change very quickly if there is a spike, just as we saw within 6 months from close to 15% unemployment to less than 7% unemployment across 2 quarters. So these things can change. But what he's saying is it's not unemployment numbers, it is re-employment of the significant segments of the people who are in the unemployment as well as in the lower income category.
Yes, indeed, and that's a subtle differentiation because when COVID struck, it was not an economic problem; it was a pandemic, and therefore, if you remember the initial, tranche of stimulus that came along, there was a word called furlough used, and it was essentially made to intended to convey the message that people's paychecks will be preserved to a large extent. There was a cutoff at 100,000. You couldn't, if you made more than 100,000 a year, you could only get 100,000. But it was a very, very well thought out and well executed plan, which is why the United States has bounced back to 6.3% unemployment rate. So we are at the end of today's program. If you have anything else to add, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, we will join again tomorrow.
Great. Now, I just want to touch on 3 important points around the global scene because I'm using the little bit of the time window, if you don't mind. First and foremost is that Iran, now continuing story of Iran saga is that now they have made what you call as the uranium metal. The uranium metal is a precursor to the manufacturing of the nuclear bomb. So this is IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, confirming that Iran now has uranium metal, enrichable metal, which is now ready for making a bomb. This is where the news was coming from Israel, which is to say that they're very close to a bomb. So we could see that's not a very good news because we could see some potential issues looming as a result of that. The second, adjacent to this, is the announcement of this exercise, which is Iran, China, and Russia in Indian Ocean. So South China Sea to Indian Ocean, you have 2 planned attacks coming from China, with China in both the footprints. What is more worrying is Iran and Russia getting into the specific zone, which is India's, if you recall, India's providence in terms of the Quad brief, looking after that specific segment in partnership with United States. Pacific and South China Sea is Japan and Australia part of the Quad, right? So while US navigates from one part to the other part. And if you recall, United States has said we'll come up to Indian Ocean, and then from that point, India can kind of take charge and contribute by way of security. So therefore, that's adjacent to this Iran issue. That's a problem, and what that does to the West Asia, kind of the peace accord, and how it polarizes is another issue. My final point is this: people get it's very important to take cognizance. As one of the people who said, Britain leaving Brexit is good for Britain because it can re-establish its global connectivity and not be part of this coalition of socialism and conservatism, which makes up the EU policy framework. So it can re-exert. So Britain is now taking it first, and one of the first things it did, it formed a trade partnership with India. It formed a trade partnership with ASEAN. Now it is forming a partnership with Japan. If you remember, HMS Hercules made its way into the Japan seas. So there is a growing Anglo-Asian partnership, and that is now extending into the Trans-Pacific Alliance. So it is possible that Britain and Japan may thwart Chinese attempts to enter the comprehensive Trans-Pacific Partnership Treaty. So these are 3 discrete but realignment of some of the geopolitical forces that's happening in that particular part of the world.
And that's it for today. We'll be back tomorrow. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. You can see the subscribe button at the bottom right corner of this video. Anytime you can press that thing to subscribe yourself to this channel. Thanks for watching. And again, we'll be back tomorrow, same time. And namaskaram.
Namaskar and have a wonderful day.